The New York Giants sign Andrew Thomas to a contract extension. Plus, they opened up training camp with their first practice. We're going to give you the details on Andrew Thomas's extension, plus some camp highlights coming up next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. My name is Patricia Chena, and I am back from the first day of New York Giants training camp. A very busy day, as expected, but what wasn't expected of today was the news that Andrew Thomas, left tackle, signed a contract extension. So that was the big storyline, and that news broke just as I think a lot of us here in the media were pulling into the parking lot. And it's funny, for me, I pulled into the parking lot, I had to run in, put my stuff down, and then it was off to Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll's presser. So I didn't really get much of a chance to do anything with it. And it's a good thing because sometimes, throughout the day you talk to people and you get some additional information. So anyway, I had the information regarding that contract. I know a lot of you asked me about the cap space, the cap numbers, all that good stuff. I put up a short video on the YouTube channel with some of the details, but I will break that down for you. But first, I just want to, say this about Joe Schoen and the job he's doing. This man is knocking it out of the park. I mean, he doesn't let grass grow under his feet. I'll talk a little bit about the Saquon Barkley contract just for a minute here, because I think it just kind of exemplifies what I'm trying to say about him. Schoen said he spent 9 months negotiating with Barkley's representatives only to not get a deal done. And when the deadline came and went, he could have just as easily just thrown up his hands, said, "That's it, I'm done, I'll see you next year." But he didn't. He kept at it. And he finally was able to work out a modified deal on the franchise tag to bring Saquon Barkley into training camp and, above all, eliminate a potential distraction, a month-long distraction with Barkley's absence. So kudos to him, because this man doesn't let grass grow under his feet. He takes a stand. He has kept to his word about identifying talent and getting it locked up. He did it with Daniel Jones. He did it with Dexter Lawrence. He tried to do it with Saquon. Didn't work out for, numerous reasons. And he's done it with Andrew Thomas, left tackle. So just an amazing job by Joe Schoen. We talk about, obviously, the job Howie Roseman does in Philadelphia and how he runs a masterclass. Well, Joe Schoen, ladies and gentlemen, is starting to run a masterclass of his own. So let's talk about the Andrew Thomas contract extension. It is a 5-year extension, $117.5 million. It has an APY, which is average per year, $23.5 million, which is the second highest for an offensive lineman in history after Laramie Tunsil. It had $67 million fully guaranteed at signing, which is the most ever in the NFL history, breaking the previous records of $64 million given to Ronnie Stanley, I believe, of the 49ers. The $67 million fully guaranteed at signing is also the most ever for a non-quarterback first-round extension after 3 years. The deal was worked out by Roc Nation. Yes, the same Roc Nation that represented Saquon Barkley, but a different agent at Roc Nation. Andrew Thomas's agent is John Thornton, a former NFL defensive tackle. He used to play with the Bengals, actually. And he is a really good agent, understands, obviously, the player's perspective and whatnot. So John Thornton negotiated that deal. And by the way, John Thornton is also Azeez Ojulari's agent, for those who might be wondering about that. So basically, it was a good comeback deal for Roc Nation after, what happened with the Saquon Barkley negotiations. But, that's the topic for another time, obviously. I don't want to sit here and, trash Roc Nation for not getting it done. without hearing their side of the story, obviously. But that being said, let's talk a little bit more about the deal. His cap number, Andrew Thomas's cap number for 2023 was supposed to be 10.291 million. That now has been cut in about half. So the new cap number for Andrew Thomas is 5.02 million. And I mentioned he gets a $16 million signing bonus. So you prorate that over 5 years, it comes out to what? A little 16 million. So it comes out to a little less than what? Or a little more than 4 million a year, I think, or something like that. Anyway, Andrew Thomas's first year base salary, 1.02 million, that per source. All right. Now, a lot of you asked me, what does that do for the Giants' salary cap space? So, according to Over the Cap, the Giants had 3.829 million in cap space, which was the third lowest total as of the start of today. Now, that total, I don't believe, includes the Cole Beasley signing and a couple of other signings the Giants made. The James Robinson signing. So I don't know what those numbers are going to be. I have a feeling they're going to be veteran minimums. That being said, with over $5 million in cap space opening up, thanks to the Thomas extension, the Giants are going to have about maybe 8-9 million in space. And for those of you who've asked me, oh, does this mean another signing is coming? We'll have to wait and see. I don't think there will be, unless, there's an emergency, obviously, if somebody gets hurt or if somebody, doesn't report or whatever, then they might dip into that funds. But I think that's going to just give the Giants some breathing space. Now, what was interesting about this contract is that Andrew Thomas spoke about wanting to get the financial security now. He mentioned the injuries that he dealt with the first 3 years of his career, and he didn't want to take a gamble and wait to see, if come next year he could set the record again. So for the time being, he's going to be the highest paid offensive tackle, I think offensive lineman, but that always changes. I mean, as other guys get contracts, obviously that always changes. So, yeah, great deal for Andrew Thomas. Daniel Jones must have been thrilled. As a matter of fact, I know he was thrilled because when he spoke to the media, he spoke about how happy he was to have Andrew Thomas under contract for, the next 5 years or whatever. So Joe Schoen getting it done, folks. He is getting it done. I mean, I was surprised Andrew Thomas got the deal that he did now. I thought the Giants, who had him under contract for another 2 years would wait. But I've also said that they had to do something to open up some cap space going into the season. This opens up a ton of cap space. So is it going to be enough to get him through the year? We'll have to wait and see. But pretty obvious that, Shane doesn't want to have to touch Leonard Williams's number, 32 million, Adoree Jackson's number. He doesn't want to have to touch those deals because you touch them now, you're kicking the can down the road and you're going to screw up your cap for future years. So Shane doing an absolute masterful job with getting guys signed and taking care of the salary cap. So that was the big news coming out of day one of Giants training camp. Now, we also had a practice to talk about. So in the next segment, I'm going to give you some highlights, some observations, some thoughts from the Giants' first day of training camp. Don't go anywhere. All right, Giant fans, our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. And if you're looking to make a smooth turn in fantasy football snake drafts with the last pick in the first round and the first pick in the second round, then you will be guaranteed to have a winning 1-2 punch of workhorse power in your backfield when you take the Colts' Jonathan Taylor and the Browns' Nick Chubb back-to-back. While Taylor is a perfect rebound candidate in a more run-friendly overall offense in Indianapolis, Chubb is also set up to dominate with more of the combined workload in Cleveland. And, speaking of guaranteed fits, eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. And it's the same with your vehicle. With eBay's guaranteed fit in over 122 million parts and accessories for your vehicle right at your fingertips, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Air filters, brakes, batteries, taillights, alternators, shocks, struts, you name it, eBay Motors has it. And they'll make sure it's the right fit for your car because eBay's guaranteed fit helps you understand exactly what part you need for your vehicle the first time. So go forth, switch gears, crank up the AC, and say goodbye to sweating if your ride needs a little fixing up, because now you know you'll always be set up for success from the get-go. With eBay's guaranteed fit, everything your vehicle needs is just a click away. For the parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay's guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions apply. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and we are going to talk now about training camp because there was a practice today, and it was a toasty day out in East Rutherford, but you know what? It was fantastic being back out on the field. Real football is just right around the corner. And some takeaways, some notes, some observations about the New York Giants and training camp. I've got these new little short notebooks here, which are easier because they fit right in the palm of my hand. So I can take better notes with these things. So I've got a few things for you that I want to share. And I want to start off with an observation that I made on Twitter. And a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but enough people said, well, duh, what do you expect? So the observation I made is that I thought the offense outplayed the defense. And a lot of people were like, well, of course the offense was going to outplay the defense. There's no pass rush, there's no pads, there's no pressure. What did you expect? But here's why I mention that and why I think this is so significant. The offense in years past has always gotten off to a slow start. Last year it was off to a slow start. They weren't playing fast. They weren't playing crisp. There were mistakes and galore and so forth. I didn't see a whole lot of mistakes to the naked eye this year, in this practice. I didn't see any turnovers. I don't think there were any interceptions. I didn't see any fumbles. I didn't see any botched, snaps or anything like that. Now, granted, the Giants did not partake in 11-on-11, which is the team drills. They did 7-on-7. But in going through, the 7-on-7 drills, offense, ladies and gentlemen, was firing on all cylinders. I mean, they were playing fast, I mean, in the past, you would watch them and there would be hesitations. Daniel Jones might hold the ball too long, or running back might not know where to go. I didn't see a whole lot of that from the first team offense. Now, I did see that obviously with the second team offense. I did see it definitely with the third team offense. But the point I'm trying to get at is this is an offensive system that is very complex. And year two, you kind of expected things to kind of smooth out a little bit. So last year, you had some rough edges. This year, you could kind of see everything is smoothing out a little bit. Daniel Jones, to my eyes at any rate, looked like he was, has been playing in this offense for years. He was making quick decisions. He was throwing accurately. I think there was maybe just one or two passes where he put a little too much on the ball and it sailed over the intended receiver's head. I really didn't see Daniel Jones making very many mistakes. Saquon Barkley ran the ball well. Again, in 7-on-7, and I get it, it's not the full team drills, but the encouraging thing, especially for an offense that is looking to be more explosive at this season, not a whole lot of mistakes. Now, they did do primarily all their work in the red zone, as they always do to start training camp, because they don't have to do as much running. It's a buildup. But I just thought the offense overall was a little bit more crisper, if you will, than the defense. Now, I also want to talk about, just backing up a little bit. I want to talk about a change that I noticed with the Giants, because big question I think a lot of people had, including yours truly, is what are they going to do differently, especially to combat injuries? Now, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to ask my question of Brian Dable and Joe Shane, but I might see if I could slip it in there, during the week. But anyway, one of the big differences or changes that Dable has made is in the practice schedule. So last year, or what teams can do, is they have a 5-day acclimation period. So a lot of teams will practice 4 days, have a day off, come back, practice one more day, and then boom, you're in pads. Dable this year is doing 3 on, 1 off. So you've got practice this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, off Saturday, back Sunday, Monday, and then pads on Tuesday. So, and then they have a day off. So he changed it up just a little bit. Now, I ultimately want to ask about that. I want to find out what went into that change because it is noticeable and it's significant. I suspect it's to help keep the players fresh because look, you don't want to, you want to get them enough work during the year or during the summer, I should say, but you don't want to wear them down. And, what's also kind of interesting, I thought, in thinking about it is the practice schedule right now for training camp kind of mirrors what you would see during the regular season. So in the regular season, just so you know, obviously they play a game on a Sunday. Monday is kind of a walkthrough cleanup type deal, like a corrections practice. It's kind of a walkthrough. Tuesday is a day off. Then you practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday's a walkthrough. Sunday's the game. So the practice schedule that Brian Dable has set up really mirrors what you do during a regular season. And I wonder if that was, if that was part of the factor. And I do want to ask him about it because I am curious. Again, I wasn't able to ask today because there were so many reporters there, expecting to hear from Saquon, who, by the way, is going to talk tomorrow and on Thursday's practice. So I want to find out. I'm curious, to see, especially given how the Giants have had issues with injuries and whatnot. So that is definitely on the agenda for me. As far as other major changes, and I will get into, other specifics coming up in the podcast, but other major changes, it's funny. I saw the defense working against each other. So the defense, you had one side of the defense and then the other side was simulating the offense. And they had these new little, I call them painter caps because they're like these floppy, beret type caps. They were different colors. And I guess they were there to represent, who, the different players on offense. I thought that was new. I saw maybe a few new drills here and there. Some takeaways I can give you on that. Bobby Okereke, the inside linebacker, was getting individualized instruction from his position coach. And it was interesting because what they were working on was having Okereke read the running back. Okay, so let me see if I can explain it to you so you can visualize it. So the Giants had a staff member kind of serve as a running back. And what he was trying to do is he was like juking to the left, juking to the right. And the coach was having Okereke kind of cut and follow, try to mirror him. And it was interesting because Okereke was the only one doing that particular drill. And he was doing it well. After a while, it's like if the running back went to the left, Okereke, boom, to the left. To the right, boom, to the right. So he was coming along well. But I found that interesting that just he was the only one I saw doing those types of drills while the rest of the inside linebackers were off. I don't know what they were doing, to be honest with you, but that only because that was right in front of me. So I was watching that drill and just watching Okereke kind of, work with that particular drill. Speaking of Okereke and the inside linebackers, Darian Beavers was lining up with the starting unit. Now, I don't know if that's going to stay the same, but Beavers looks like he's the incumbent now that, Gerard Davis is on IR. Gerard Davis, I believe, was the guy that was going to initially take that role or at least compete for that role. And I know a lot of you asked me about safety. At safety, it was Jason Pinnock lining up next to Xavier McKinney. So again, folks, this could change, but this was the initial lineup as far as depth goes. At center, I know a couple people asked about center. Ben Bredesen did some work at center, as did John Michael Schmitz. But don't go filling out your depth cards yet, because it's only the first day of practice and it's not padded practice. So don't go ahead and put in ink that it's going to be Joshua Zudo at left guard and Ben Bredesen at center, or John Michael Schmitz at center, or Darian Beavers at the second inside linebacker. There's still a lot of training camp to come, and we got a long way to go as far as seeing who comes through healthy, who's got injuries, and all that kind of stuff. So was a few generic observations there. Now, coming up, I'm going to talk about specifics, that takeaways, and what this means moving forward. So do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey, Giant fans, if you haven't checked out our Subtext community, what are you waiting for? Now, with training camp underway, the Subtext community gives me an opportunity to send out text alerts to all the subscribers. And best of all, it allows me to text one-on-one with my subscribers. So if there's a question that you have, you can text it to me and I'll try and get back to you when I have a free moment. I also give my subscribers an opportunity to do participate in exclusive opportunities. For example, last week I had Mark Lewinsky on the show, gave my Subtext community subscribers an opportunity to submit questions for Mark Lewinsky. So how does it work? Well, all you need to do is check out the show notes. There's a link to the Subtext community sign up, and it's joinsubtext.com/lockedonnygiants. And the best part of it is it's free for 14 days. Try it. And if you like it, do nothing. You'll be billed $4.99 per month after your 14-day trial period is over. If you don't like it, simply text stop after before your trial is over, and you won't be billed, and there will be no obligation. There's no long-term obligations, no contracts or anything like that. You can opt out anytime you want. So do check it out. It's really, a great way for me to, further communicate with my listeners, my readers, give you the information you want to know, answer your questions and whatnot. Again, the information to sign up is in the show notes. It's joinsubtext.com/lockedonnygiants. So hope you'll check it out. And I look forward to having the opportunity to possibly texting with you. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and the Giants have day one of training camp in the books. Yes, day one is in the books. Not too bad today weather-wise. It was toasty, but not absolutely disgusting out, where I thought I would walk in and have to wring out my clothes. So that was pretty good. But let's now turn our attention to some specific observations that I had. I mentioned that the offense was, pretty solid. I'm sure Brian Dable will probably agree, but Saquon Barkley on the field, he practiced, looked good. Guy's in shape. He's totally in shape. Didn't do a whole lot of running, was used more as a receiver in this practice. So, he was doing flares and, swing passes and that sort of thing. Again, the Giants primarily worked in the red zone today. So, not a lot of deep stuff. But Barkley, he looks good. And, I mentioned he didn't talk to the media today. He is supposed to talk to the media on Thursday. So we'll see what he has to say. I'm sure that'll be a really good session. Darren Waller. Oh my gosh. Can we talk about Darren Waller? Good luck to the opponents in trying to cover this dude. The cool thing about Darren Waller, okay, he's 6'6", and the man has got a catch radius that is like none other I've ever seen. I mean, there were a few balls where they purposely, threw what I call a lollipop or a rainbow, and Waller had a high pointed, and I'm telling you, he was no match for the linebackers and defensive backs that had to cover him. I mean, Waller just, very expertly just would reach up, pull down the ball, and oh, well, it's done. So really impressive showing from Darren Waller. He's everything, so far he's everything they said he would be. Obviously, we've got to see it in the games, but oh my, he's going to be so hard for opposing teams to cover. I mentioned Daniel Jones had a good day. Matter of fact, if I'm giving an offensive star of a star player, Daniel would be my pick. I thought he was in midseason form. I think there were only 2 passes. I had him down for 2 passes that, went incomplete, one of which was just a bad throw. He had touchdown passes to Waller, Hodgins, Cole Beasley, Paris Campbell, and Bellinger. And, oh, by the way, Daniel also ran one in on a keeper. So, I watched Daniel and I think, my gosh, he's playing so much faster than he was this time last year. And I actually, asked him about that. I said, Daniel, do you feel like, you're playing a lot faster now? And in a nutshell, he said, yeah, they're not learning a completely new system. There are new plays that have been put into the system, but it's not all brand new. So Daniel is playing a lot faster now than he was at this time last year, I thought. So that was certainly encouraging. Let me see. A couple of injury notes for you. Raheem Nunez-Roches, defensive lineman. It was reported by The Athletic. He got into a little car accident when he was leaving the facility on Tuesday. So he's in the concussion protocol. Now, it's, that was really the only thing he suffered. No other injuries, but he's sidelined for the time being. And then you might have read, if you were following me on Twitter, Jalen Hyatt left the field towards the end of practice with head trainer Ronnie Barnes, but he came back later on. So I think it was just a heat-related issue. Jalen Hyatt, didn't really see him catch a lot of balls. I don't think he caught any balls today. Not that he was targeted, but he did have a jet sweep that he ran, and he looked pretty good running it. Just wish he had been a little bit more direct instead of going backwards before going forward. But he still picked up the yardage, so that was good. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Defensive backs, Javarius Owens, Trey Hawkins, they collided with each other. Oh my gosh, the 2 of them came face to face, and boom. And I thought, uh-oh, that's not good. One of them's going to, get dinged. Fortunately, they both jumped up and they were fine, the 2 of them. The pass, they were defending a pass thrown by Tommy DeVito. And, look, speaking of Tommy DeVito, I thought he held the ball really a long time on a lot of his passes. I haven't been impressed with him so far. And I know, look, at best case, he's going to be the 3rd quarterback on the practice squad. But I got to be honest with you folks, just haven't been wowed by Tommy DeVito just yet. It's early. Let's see if he picks it up. But so far, I'm not impressed. Bryce Ford-Wheaton. Now, this is a guy that when I was doing my initial roster projections, my pre-camp roster projections, I thought maybe Bryce Ford-Wheaton would have a shot at making the roster. I don't think the numbers are going to favor him, but you know what? This is another guy with a big catch radius, and he put that on display. He did a really nice job corralling a pass that was overthrown by DeVito in the back of the end zone, and at the same time, Ford-Wheaton was able to keep his feet in bounds, walking the tightrope. So I thought that was really, really sweet on his part. Let's see, what else can I tell you about the practice? Yeah, just not a whole lot, in terms of, standout plays or anything like that, because no team drills. But that being said, they're building it up. So I think overall, if you're Brian Daboll, you're probably generally pleased with what you saw today. Still a lot of work to do. It's by no means perfect, but they'll get there, folks. They really will. It'll come together. But this team, to my eyes and my thinking at any rate, so much further ahead than they were this time last year when everybody was just kind of learning everything new. So I'm really looking forward to when the pads go on, because that's going to tell us just how far the offense and the defense have come. So that'll be exciting to watch. And of course, we here at the Locked On Giants podcast will bring you all that stuff. I also hope to maybe grab a couple players to have, interview segments to include on the podcast. So next show, we will continue our training camp reports. I'll get them out to you as soon as I can. So I want to thank you for tuning into the Locked On Giants podcast, making it your first listen of the day, or if watching on YouTube, your first watch of the day. I'm Patricia Traynor. I'll be back tomorrow, Giant fans, with a whole new report. See you then.